So today we're going to make a vanilla sculpting cake. It's a really simple recipe, actually makes amazing cake. It is a little bit of a denser cake, which is actually why it's great for making cakes where you need to have the shape really hold up. It's also really delicious. My recipe was adapted from another recipe. I can actually link that below. What I did was actually decrease some of the sugar and the butter that came from that recipe because I don't like my cakes to be as rich, since I will be adding buttercream for the frosting anyway. But we can get started here. So I'll also have the recipe below. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the sugar and butter, and we're gonna cream that in our mixer. All right, so we have 1 stick of butter. This is unsalted. You can actually use salted butter for this recipe since we are adding salt anyways. Every salted butter is gonna be a little bit different in terms of how much salt is in there. So it's totally up to you how you wanna do it. We're also going to add 300 grams of granulated sugar. So I do have a nifty little kitchen scale here, super cheap. I think it was only like $20. And we'll just measure that out. I actually like measuring out the weight because it eliminates any volume problems that you might have if your measuring cup's not exactly right. Okay, so 300 grams is about 1.25 cups. All right, so a little bit. All right, so we have 300 grams here. I'm just gonna dump that in with our butter. We have 1/4 teaspoon of salt here. I'll go ahead and add that too. All right, and then let's go ahead and cream that. It'll look about this consistency. And we actually can add the eggs into here. So it's really important that you have room temperature eggs, otherwise it's going to make your butter all chunky and we definitely don't want that. So we'll add them 1 egg at a time. And we'll just let that cream a little bit. All right, so that's the texture about we're looking for. And then we're gonna add another egg. So just make sure that it's pretty well incorporated before you add your other eggs. Do not blend your spatula in there. Just gonna scrape down the sides again here. All right, last egg. So this is about the texture that we're looking for. We'll just let it whip for just a little bit longer to get that nice and fluffy. All right, so we're looking pretty good here. So we can actually also preheat the oven to 350 degrees. And that'll take a few minutes here. We can actually mix up the dry ingredients. So we're going to use 340 grams of all-purpose flour. So we're gonna use our scale again. All right, got 340 grams. All right, and then we're gonna add 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder. All right. All right, let's just mix that up real quick. Just make sure that baking powder is evenly spread out through the flour. And if you want to be extra smooth with the flour, you can actually sift it. Confession, was a little bit lazy and did not do that. I often don't do that and my cakes still turn out pretty good, so it couldn't be that bad. But if you want it to be perfect, then go ahead and sift your flour before you measure it all out. All right, now we can do the milk mixture, the liquids for this. So it's 8 ounces of whole milk. You can also use 2% if you want to cut out some of the fat in there. We're gonna add 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract into here, as well as 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. So today I'm using avocado oil. You want to use a pretty neutral oil. Some people can taste avocado oil, but it doesn't seem to bother me or my family, so that's what I'm using today. If you want to use a vegetable oil or canola oil, that works as well. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add this into the mixer, alternating with the liquids and the dry ingredients in about 1/3 batches. All right. I'm gonna scrape down the sides a little bit just to make sure all of the flour gets incorporated. And just keep adding your liquids and your dry ingredients, alternating, and keep mixing. We're looking for a really smooth texture here. Looks like we're getting there. Just gonna make sure that there's no pockets of flour down there. All right, what we're gonna do next, it looks like our oven has preheated, but we wanna get our pans ready. All right, so today I'm gonna use the rounds. I already pre-cut these from a previous cake that I'd made and I had some leftover, but wanted to show you guys how to do that just in case. You can apparently buy these pre-made. I'm a little bit too cheap to do that, so I'll show you how I do that with parchment paper here. So just cut yourself a nice square. And so we'll make sure that this is a square, and then we'll just keep folding. All right, and then you want to just keep folding. And then what we're gonna do is actually cut around here, and then I'll make a circle. So really convenient. You can measure out the length of the radius of this, and that's how you get that diameter. I did a little rough job on this one, but that's okay. As long as it's largely covering, that really is what matters. I'm gonna use some spray oil here just for the sides of the cake so that it is easier. These are already non-stick, but I like that extra assurance. All right, and now we're done with that. And so now we're just gonna divide it among these three. So I'll just spread it out to flatten it a little bit. It is a pretty thick batter. It might not look like it's very much right now, but these actually, they rise quite a bit. All right. You can go ahead and shake it out a little bit. All right, so if you guys are wondering what the secret to flat cakes are, it's cake strips. So cake strips, you can either purchase them or you can make them. I actually took a kitchen towel just like this. It's pretty long. I actually cut it vertically here, right down the middle, and then you get these very long strips. You then wet them and then wrap it around your pan. So that's the DIY version of it, but you can buy them. There are a lot of different options online. You can also make them out of aluminum foil, but I would not recommend that if you want them to be really, really flat. The aluminum foil ones just don't retain as much water because you line it with paper towels and it just doesn't work as well. All right, so in true DIY fashion, we're gonna use binder clips to hold these together. Try not to dip your finger in there, but if it happens, that's all right. All right, so this is what it will look like. So this actually helps with the even baking because it keeps the temperature on the edges actually the same as in the inside, and that's why it actually prevents the inside from just bubbling up like that. All right, so let's stick these into the oven. It is preheated. All right, and set the timer. All right, we'll be back in 30 minutes. All right, let's take these cakes out. So we can stick a toothpick in there to check to see if they are done, but I've done this so many times that they only really took 30 minutes in this oven. So as you can see, they are super flat. If you wanna have a little bit more of a golden crust, you can leave it in for a couple of minutes longer, but then you just run the risk of overcooking them and making them really dry. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these off. And let them cool. And then I will wrap them in saran wrap, leave them in the fridge overnight, and then frost them tomorrow. So stay tuned, we're going to frost the cakes in our next video. Thanks for watching.
Remember to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.